Hello, and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and we're very glad that you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We are continuing in a series with the author of this book, Sanctuary, The Path to Consciousness, Stephen Lewis, a subtle energy physicist who has founded a program called the AIM program through an organization, a church that he founded called EMC Squared, the Energetic Matrix Church of Consciousness. He'll be speaking to us about this profound work, this spiritual technology, which is beginning to take root all over the world, really, step by step, seed by seed. Some very notable people, both from the celebrity community from Hollywood, as well as ministers, reverends, and clergy from all different churches across this country, are beginning to get the message of this most important and valuable spiritual technology, and they are connecting to it. The New Age, the New Thought communities, churches are seeing that what Steve is doing and has innovated has profound impact on where we are today as a society, where we are today as a global community, needing to become more conscious. And he'll be speaking with us about that very process today in this ongoing series. Steve, thanks so much for being on the show again.
Again, yes.
Yes,
my
indeed.
pleasure.
Great. It's great to have you.
I forewarned you that usually I just play one note. Okay?
Yes.
So
we have another one coming.
Another note. As I said, we're going to add ray. Hopefully a bright ray, but
exactly.
a ray.
We're moving toward a chord.
Not a ray of darkness.
That's right. I'm sure it's brightness.
No, it may be because, I may do some interviewing of you.
Yes.
All
Okay.
right? Right? Put the shoe on the other foot. All right?
Okay.
In fact, here, let's try it. Now, in physics, we know that if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, it does not make a noise. There's no forest, there's nothing. Or if
This has been hotly debated for many a century.
Well, I think in physics, it's a foregone conclusion thanks to a man named Niels Bohr in his studies of consciousness. In physics, it's consciousness that therefore determines, shall I say, matter. The point is that there is a science of mind. There is a religious science. There is a spiritual technology. And without consciousness, there is something, and that's the question. In the world of spirituality, it's axiomatic that no man is an island. Unto himself, each is part of the main. It was true before John Donne said it.
And after.
When Jesus, and after. And when Jesus said, what you do to the least of mine, you do to me, same statement.
Yes.
Okay, the point is, we are all connected. But we're certainly not holding hands. So how are we connected? By what?
By energy, really. By energy fields. Through
Right.
fields, I would say.
It's not by matter.
No.
Right.
It's something much finer and subtler than matter.
But when you and I are dealing with each other, in person here where I can touch you, or by the telephone, or by email, or by whatever, we are also connected. We're connected by our consciousness. That's what defines us. We are connected in the sense of physics, all right, without our communicating. We're connected because we are part of, let's use the word that's used, we're part of a wave,
Yes.
okay?
And we are connected by definition, in fact.
By definition.
By definition.
Because each part of the wave, as you know, is connected to,
Every other
contacts
wave.
every other part of the wave. There's interconnections.
Yes.
Now,
holographically, actually, as well.
absolutely. Well, that is the greater hologram. Everything's connected. But there, as I said, as you heard me say this morning, the hologram is composed of a number of holograms. Lesser, 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 lesser. To the least hologram in my mind, which is You are your least hologram, as I am my least hologram, and we are a larger hologram, you and I.
In other words, Steve is the least common denominator of Steve's. Or of
Yes.
Steve, right? If you
can
will.
put it- if I will, we can
Yeah.
put it that way. Now,
Okay.
So now, in spirituality, we understand no man's an island. In physics, we understand that. And I spoke about Niels Bohr. Well, he said that consciousness gives the wave particulate form. That's the point. So
Mhm.
I'm leading up to something that I think is kind of interesting. So bearing that in mind, we said everything is energy. Everything. So therefore, is hatred energy?
Yes.
Of course it is. As is love.
Mhm.
Is health energy? As is disease.
Literally everything.
Exactly. So, given that, we've always known there's a phenomenon called healing. It's as old as mankind. And it's not just a matter of faith, it's accepted by a linear group such as the AMA. I mean, you can read about healing in the tabloids, right?
And the Talmud,
And the Talmud.
if you will.
And in the New England Journal of Medicine,
Sure.
where they'll speak of inexplicable spontaneous remission. That's healing,
Mhm.
okay? And in the tabloids, next to vegetarians, you've heard me say that, give birth to green baby.
Yes.
It's a miracle, not cure. Cure is when you give someone something and it kills a disease.
Mhm.
But it's a miracle healing. So I'm leading up to something. What do you
Yes.
think
What's
healing
behind
is?
all this?
What do you think healing is? How would you define it?
I would define it really the way the English language defines it, including its etymology, which is to make whole. And it comes from the same root as to make holy or to be holy. So to make whole would mean, in one context, to make the unconscious conscious. In other words, that our whole mind
So
is
then
reconnected,
It
reunited.
becomes expanding the hologram is part of the process.
Yes. And
Because you can
Yeah.
divorce whole from holy, perhaps, but not from hologram.
you can't divide it from holy either, really.
I
Just like
agree.
you can't.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
I was just
I know, you were testing.
checking you out.
I
That's
know.
a-
I know.
So, in my mind, healing is the process of your consciousness directing your life force specifically against a frequency that is an imbalance, a frequency that is negative within you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Or
Now-
could you say, according to this paradigm that we've developed here a bit, something that is unconscious in you? You use the
Making
word
it
negative.
conscious?
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting into that too, because that brings into consideration what Michael Beckwith said to me in my office.
Mhm.
And for those who didn't hear me speak about it, it was when we took a picture of his nephew, and I checked it energetically, and I said, Reverend Michael, this child has the frequency of raging hereditary and active malignancy, cancer. And the Reverend said to me, where do you get that? So I, being linear by nature, looked to see which parent.
Sure. What
Okay?
line?
Okay. And Reverend Michael, because spirituality supersedes technology,
Mhm.
it does.
And
Reverend
precedes.
Michael, and precedes it by far.
Right.
Reverend Michael said, no, it's my family. I know which side. Stop being so literal.
Just ask me.
He said, what made this child bring that with him?
Mm-hmm.
Because he chose his parents. Now, I believe that, and many, many do believe that. I know you do.
Yes.
You and I have talked about it privately. So, as you know, we looked, and we found it was unconscious, unresolved, past life embitteredness. And wow, that was amazing. And then we wanted to see how unique this child was in that respect. So we took about 100 pictures or so of people who had this frequency of hereditary cancer.
That profile
And
in particular.
can I say damn on this program?
Mhm.
Every damn one of them had as the cause of their frequency of hereditary cancer unresolved, unconscious, past life embitterness. Okay? Now, and then the Rev said, what will make this conscious? A lesser man might have said, how do we get rid of it? Okay? He just
Exactly.
jumped way ahead.
Yeah.
Okay? And so
He
we
knows
said,
where
let's
to come
take a
from.
look. Well, spirituality.
Yeah. That's what comes
Right,
with the territory.
exactly. It comes with the territory,
Right.
right? And so we looked, we found a frequency that would force it into consciousness. And as I told you, we immediately put that frequency on the AIM program,
Yes.
on the trays. And what happened? Within a couple of weeks, we get calls and we get letters and saying, why am I feeling so bitter? Well, that began an odyssey with Reverend Michael and me of finding that which creates disease. And it's always unresolved, it's always unconscious, and if it's hereditary, it's always been past life, obviously.
Right.
And what emotion? The egotism involved in this, and the disappointment involved in the respiration, and on and on and on and on and on. And each time we look to say, what frequency will force that into consciousness?
Mm-hmm.
And we got calls, and we got letters. So
You
the
hit.
point is this, that you begin with this negative emotion, and then it manifests etherically, if you will.
Mhm.
And the very last place it manifests is physically. And so
Aren't you supposed to be interviewing me?
his contention, pardon me?
Aren't you supposed to be interviewing me?
Yes, I'm waiting, yes, or shake your head no.
Yes.
Good,
Physically.
good. He's an
Right.
easy subject, folks. So, isn't that, don't you find that amazing, though?
Oh.
Amazing story.
Oh, definitely.
And-
It's a beautiful
So-
illustration
so we-
of the etiology, if you will,
We
how things come
create
into manifestation.
disease just as we create something positive. We create it
Yeah.
but we create disease with our unconsciousness,
Right.
and we create the positive aspects of our life with our consciousness. That is the point.
We're creating both of them with our consciousness.
Because, well,
Both are created with our consciousness, although part of it goes underground, if you will. Nobody wants to continue to feel bitter. So if you want to really look at that moment in
but again,
time,
Mitchell, how do you resolve this embitterness or whatever the emotion may be? You make it conscious. You force
definitely.
it into consciousness.
well, that brings in the
Now,
AIM program.
again,
That brings in the
exactly.
AIM program.
The point is, we do agree, but semantics are difficult because, sure, I know everything about me,
Mhm.
but I don't know everything about it to speak of it. I'm a work in progress. We are works in progress.
Yes.
I mean, we are all works in progress. Let's say that Jesus was not, or Buddha was not,
Mhm.
okay? These enlightened ascendant masters.
They had the semantics down.
Yes. No, they didn't need them. There's a difference.
But for us, they did. I mean, we needed
Right.
it.
In fact, I would tend to say that quantum consciousness is when you are conscious of your interaction with everything in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a working definition of it.
Yes, I do.
And,
I think so.
And that's why we idolize these people, or we adore them, if you
Yes.
will.
Mm-hmm.
So getting back to healing, we take that which is essentially relatively then unconscious and force it into consciousness.
Yes.
And this is what the AM does. Now, the essence of that, of course, is that We do it with your photo. As you know, we can do it with anything unique to you.
Any representation of an individual.
Anything unique to you.
Mhm.
It's solely unique to you.
That has our energetic configuration.
Is energetically you.
Mhm.
And by forcing you to choose every imbalance you have in a hierarchical manner, okay? The highest layers first, most recent layers, superficial layers first.
So hierarchical, just to define in this context, would be to say
From the
those
outside
hereditary. Well, first, actually, it's the hereditary imbalances
the first ones that go
that are
the
first
acquired
challenged.
imbalances. No, the acquired imbalances go first and quickly.
Acquired. Oh, yes. Okay, to clear
Right.
that level of the field.
Exactly.
And then the others emerge. Oh,
Right,
thank you.
right,
Yes.
Yeah. And you never stop focusing. You never stop focusing your consciousness on that which is relatively unconscious, and you force it into consciousness.
Right.
You force your life force to heal yourself, because healing has
Sure.
occurred forever.
Let's go
and
back
will.
to something.
And
I want to go. I
Go
want to
ahead, yeah,
recap
go ahead.
something
Mhm.
because what you're saying is definitely a ray, and I want to spell it out because that's my job. Which what you're saying is based on that one story you spoke about of your meeting with Michael Beckwith when you looked at his family. What emerged from that is the emotional substrate of something that we refer to as a disease. There was an emotional substrate, embitteredness in this case, that created and informed what became first an etheric, you
Well, of
said,
course, Michael
and
and I
then
meet
a
almost-
physical condition.
meet almost every day,
Mhm.
and we deal with this almost every day. And
Sure.
he and I are brothers at this point, as you know.
Of course,
Um,
I do. But you see, this
yeah.
is what we're talking. And I just wanted to make that point because you're bringing to bear something, Steve, that's very, very wonderful, and it rings true. Of course, this is why people react
Mm-hmm.
and get the success, like the phone's, pardon the expression, ringing off the hook. You know, why am I feeling so embittered? You know, because you hit something, nerve, if you will, of
I'm feeling
what's
so
underneath the physical
disappointed.
body. Yeah, right, exactly. When was disappointment so good a thing? But now it is,
It
because
was
it's bringing it
so
to
good a thing
consciousness.
When instead of having it control you, you feel it and resolve it.
Indeed.
And in so resolving it, you resolve whatever more material aspect of it
Yes.
you brought with you.
And that goes back to what you were saying before about Niels Bohr, and that consciousness creates the particulate.
Exactly. Exactly. Interesting, isn't it?
It's beautiful.
I know. And
It's beautiful.
you know what's happening. We've spoken about my measurement of life force and units of consciousness.
Yes.
The fact that 4.5 years ago, when I was first measuring life force, the average in the country was 90, 91, which isn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't accept it now, nor would you,
That's right.
okay?
Yeah.
Well, you'd be calling. When I first met you, getting close to 2 years now, I think,
Mm-hmm.
the average in the country, as you know, was about 70 or 71.
That's right.
About 4 months ago, it dropped into
And
the...
I was at high 73.
Right. About 4 months ago, it dropped into the 40s. And as you know now, you've seen me working,
That's right.
measuring it, the average life force is between 19 and 22. And
It is alarming.
plummeting,
Hmm.
because we look and say life force climbing, no,
Declining.
dropping. Declining. So, and I believe, from what I've been able to plot out, and I've been pretty accurate so far,
Yes.
it's going to hit about 16 somewhere around June. And I don't know when, but around June, and go to 12 around August. And I think energetically, there's a crisis. Now,
Do
I'm
you
not the
speak
only
to that?
one.
Do you want to say something about
Well,
that for
yeah,
our
the
audience?
interesting thing is, I'm
why
not the-
is this happening? This is very extreme stuff you're saying.
Well, that's because I find that there is the frequency in every person of an immune deficiency. And that happens you become biologically aged, and
Yes.
you are unable to resist the frequency of either acquired disease frequencies again. Furthermore, more importantly, every hereditary imbalance becomes an active imbalance, which is the way it is in nature, except it normally happens when you're very aged, which is why biologic age
Yes.
is a critical point. We look and see how old would you have to be in terms of biological frequency
Mhm.
as vis-a-vis chronological age frequency. How old would you have to have your hereditary imbalances in this state of active imbalance? Okay? So that's one point. Now the other thing that's interesting is, I was in Marin lecturing not too long ago, and I mean that's easy territory for me. I told them, it used to be the lunatic fringe, and you were pretty happy about that. You liked it, and well, you've been there many times. You know that.
Oh, yes.
All right.
I feel at home there, too.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
What does that say?
You don't have to scratch very deeply to find the lunatics, neither of us, I know.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, I said either of us.
I know.
Okay? Present company's not accepted. So then you became the avant-garde, which is still acceptable. You didn't mind. A little more respectability,
Yes.
but acceptable. Now you're the mainstream. You've lost your identity. And it's not that they've changed.
Not that.
It's not that they've changed.
Right.
It's that there's this unspoken movement
Yeah.
towards spirituality
That's right.
everywhere in the country.
It
I
is
just
definitely,
came from-
it's rumbling upward.
And everyone knows
Bubbling.
it. I just came from Birmingham, Alabama, where I was speaking. I came from Georgia, and I came from Central Florida. Now, if I had been saying these things 5 years ago, I might have been tarred and feathered. The response I got was, "We've been waiting for you. What took you so long?"
Right.
That says something. It says
It sure
it's
does.
people don't know exactly why, but there's a sense
Yeah.
that we must return to spirituality, which means we must return to healing. Because
It's
vis-a-vis,
very true.
I am not saying do not get diagnosed and treated, and if possible, cured. I
Not
am
at all.
saying at the same time, it's not either or. We must, bit by bit, return to our old pattern of healing, which is as old as mankind. And the public is perceiving it.
Oh, perceiving it, they're asking for it,
Right.
which is really what
I mean,
you're saying.
let's face it, I've been here with you in New York a few times, and
Yes,
the audience is changing. It used to be
it's
the
growing.
New York, it's growing, but aside from that, the original audiences were, for the most part, the far, far left-wing crowd here in New York. But you look at the audiences now,
Oh, yeah,
they're
Yeah.
mainstream.
that's right.
And,
In New York, it's Mr.
In
and
New
Mrs.
York?
Berkowitz.
well,
Mainstream.
whoever they are. And the reverends at different churches, it's the
Definitely.
same thing.
Unity
Right.
Church with Reverend Paul Tanaglia
And look at
and
this,
others.
a little church upstate in New York, very conservative small town.
Mhm.
Totally understood and got it.
That's right. And in Connecticut,
Yeah.
New Jersey.
Right.
What we're facing, I believe, Steve, is a crisis in meaning. There is a lack of meaning, there's been a loss of meaning, and part of what is informing the upsurge is watching our world, in a sense, fall apart. There is an increase in diseases, in illness, in all sorts of things that are just shattering our ordinary perception of what life is about. Children, as we've discussed on this show, are getting cancer at early ages. It makes
Well, I don't
any
deal with
parent,
diseases, you know that.
Oh, I sure
can't
do.
address it, but I do deal with energy. However, with energy,
what we see
you
is a
can
world
heal
falling
disease.
apart.
Well,
you know?
understand something. We've got to change the way we live because this planet, as I've told you, is going to heal
This is the
itself.
point.
And if
Exactly.
the process of our planet healing itself means we become an extinct species, so
So it will be.
I don't think the
I
planet
don't believe that's going to
cares.
happen.
Well,
but
the herd is allowed to be thinned quite a bit.
yes, it's
Right.
another story.
Yeah.
It really appears that way,
Mhm.
for sure. One of the things that needs to be noted in our diminishing amount of time, even though the time is an illusion, it's still diminishing. Can you answer that as a physicist?
Yes, I can. That's for the next interview.
Okay, fine. If you would just please share with our audience some of what work you are doing dealing with the emotional substrate relative to the frequencies that people are embodying these days. You're dealing with
Well-
this whole new flowering, if you will, in the AIM program.
Well, yes, because of the emotional substrate, if you will, being addressed, being seen as the fundamental cause.
Right, a causal level.
Right.
Mhm.
Of what later manifests itself in physicality. Right. And
So
there
that means
are other
people
aspects
receiving
too.
the
For example,
frequencies will.
well, I think
Yeah.
we're winding down. Let me say something.
Yes.
For example, Reverend Michael said to me, is there a frequency that will induce unconditional love? Which is what agape means. And he's the founder of agape.
Sure.
And I looked, and we found it. It is on AIM. The same is true for perpetual gratitude. And you know what's happening? Right now, because of all this, there is a 17% increase in the time it takes to remove imbalances. That's 70% faster to get rid of them. Interesting, huh?
There's that level of acceleration
Right.
based on.
I think we're supposed to say goodbye to each other now. Is that right?
It's temporary but true. Steve Lewis, I feel perpetual gratitude for the work that you are doing and the contribution
And
that you are
I
making.
also feel the same thing. I feel grateful for you carrying me on your shoulders. That's what love is about.
Really true. Love you.
Thank you, Mitchell.
Absolutely.
I love you.
Thanks so much. Again, another winning interview with Stephen Lewis. He's bringing so much intelligence, so much wisdom to bear on our planet at a time most needed. All extraordinary times in history always call forth the need for extraordinary men with extraordinary vision. And I feel thankful and grateful that I've had the chance to get to know him and help to present this work to the larger community. Thanks so much for joining us. I look forward to seeing you all next week.